Greetings. I'm happy to begin today's presentation by continuing Greetings. I'm happy to begin cycle number 5. As I began number 1 with selections from my book of the Amphibrach being La La La. So today I begin cycle 5 with selections from my latest book, which is called Book of the Anapest, which is La La La. Now, in this poem, there occurs an important metaphor, which I'd like to elaborate on just a little for starters. It relates to an experience that probably, almost certainly, you've all had. This is where an older person, perhaps one of your parents, says, "Hold the shell up to your ear and you'll hear the ocean." I decided to check out the science behind that, and I learned, well, first of all, the article that I consulted had an amazing diagram of the shell, considering it as an echo chamber and tracing the paths by which sounds would be amplified. It turns out that when you hold that shell to the ear, what you're hearing is the vastly amplified sound, not of any watery ocean, but of the flowing of blood in your own ear. It's the sound of your blood circulation. It's the sound of your lifeblood within you. So indeed you are hearing an ocean, but it's the ocean you carry around inside of you. I think that's the most astonishing thing to have learned. And I've put it into at least a dozen of my poems over the last, I've got 9,400 poems already. It's not surprising that shows up several times. And here it is in yet another poem in cycle 5, right near the beginning. We're ready for the anapests, which are la la la, la 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 la. Now that rains have subsided, it's quiet in here. Summer heat, can the fan help to clear? Breathing deeply, I'm feeling the swell and subside on the steadier air current ride. Then I think of the sea, where the still of the deep fills with movement while seeming asleep, while the heft of the waves will with crest and a fall every effort to destiny call. Now a smile must arise and a gleam in the eyes. Hear the melody present arise. I know well what I tell of, for humming in me is a gentle circumfluent sea. Through a shell that I held to the reverent ear might the amplified grandeur appear of the rutilant hue of the jubilant red sun assumes when it westward is led. Today's presentation is a little memoir poem. It's about back in the year 1951, the big hit was the song Shrimp Boats, and since that was rather a long time ago, maybe you don't know the tune, so I'll sing a bit of it for you, and that'll provide the context for understanding the memoir poem. Shrimp boats is a-comin', their sails are in sight. Shrimp boats is a-comin', there's dancing tonight. Why don't you hurry, hurry, hurry home? Why don't you hurry, hurry, hurry home? Shrimp boats is a-comin', their sails are in sight. Shrimp boats is a-comin', there's dancing tonight. I have to admit there's more to it than that, but that's all I remember. Here we go with today's poem. I'm a boy of age 8, and the year's 51, and the kids are enjoying some fun. 'Twas the time the song Shrimp Boats became a big hit. They've decided the title of it can be nicely employed as a nickname for me. Shortest child in the classroom, you see? Well, I deem it no slight for the lyrics' delight. Boats are back and there's dancing tonight. It's a major relief. Nights are long when alone women sing their melodious moan, and there's none but the moon to address in their tune, and the men won't return very soon. Fergie's Steak Burgers Drive-In was next to my home, and my wandering thoughts I let roam while the radio songs from convertibles played and the loves of the 50s portrayed. Let me start out by continuing what I started the other day before the blackout of yesterday. Remember shrimp boats? Here's a continuation. Shrimp boats part 2. While the shrimp boats continued to sound in my head, tones refound to quick reverie led. I got curious. What's the appeal of that tune? Like the boats, the reply's coming soon. Do you have a piano? A trace of the song. Reconstruct it for fun. Won't take long. Seek the key to the secret. I keep the suspense. Now I'm ready to leap off the fence. Black keys only. Your keyboard will group them as 5. Watch the boys on the boat come alive. When your fingers pick out the choice notes that await, these, the dance and the croon parts, will mate. In the 60s, I went for the folk singing craze, with my fiddle as well. Youthful days, shady grove, grace amazing, a wretch would it save. Find those fibers, your tune brain will rave. Let me clear that up for a minute. Remember, shrimp boats is a comin', their sails are inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 5-tone scale I'm talking about. And your black keys are in groups of 5 on the piano, 3s and 2s or 2s and 3s, depending on where you start. The interesting thing about the 5-tone scale is it really seems to be a universal happiness. It's extremely popular in China and Japan, but also central to a lot of my favorite folk tunes from back in the 60s. For example, Shady Grove. Let me just show you. That has a Shady Grove. Shady Grove, my little love. Shady Grove, my dear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Shady Grove, my little love. Shady Grove, my dear. Shady Grove, my little love. I'm glad to see you here. Lips as red as the blooming rose, eyes the deepest brown. You are the darling of my heart. Stay till the sun goes down. And now, how about my favorite, my all-time favorite in the 5-tone scale? I'll do you a bare bones outline. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, la 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 la. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, la la la. La 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 la. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, la la. That's the perfectly 5-tone. And when the Chieftains, an Irish band, went to China, they got roaring, rushing, crashing applause everywhere they went, and loud shouts because the tune seemed such a perfect example of the consummate height of Chinese craftsmanship. And of course, you know the tune that is, don't you? That is Amazing Grace. I'll sing a verse for it. I can't resist. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. And before I go, let me show you one more. It just came to me in the shower this morning. The first half isn't 5-tone, but the second half, the chorus is one more river, and that's the river of Jordan. The elephants came in 2 by 2. Vive la compagnie. The elephant and the kangaroo. Vive la compagnie. One more river, and that's the river of Jordan. One more river, we've one more river to cross. Oh, one more river, and that's the river of Jordan. One more river, and there's one more river to cross. I'd like to start today by telling you something that I haven't confided in very many people before. In the planet where I come from, verse is the only thing spoken. The people have never heard of prose. They know that the gods speak verse, and they believe that emulation is the sincerest form of worship, and they wish properly to worship the gods. And so not a one of them speaks prose, because not a one of the gods ever thought of doing such a thing. They speak verse, one and all, and so do I, and here it is. Since a rebel and feisty I've tended to be, feeling pious and Christy's an effort for me, but the kingdom of God is within, I agree. As a guide to my life, it the Spirit can free. Asked by Moses to show an ID, God replied, just, I am what I am. Here's another fine guide. To accept what you are and regret set aside means becoming is being, the seas in the tide. If the force of creation you'd emulate, make. 'Tis the rarest of prayers, for so you will take for your own the mentality mind seed could stake on the will of begetting what stasis would shape. Teach the sun how to run, and the wave to be brave. Let the praise you've begun rhyme with done, and you'll save what in him will exalt and exult as we crave to reply to the drive that horizonward drave. When the muse touched the child lips with honey availed, from her fingers undying were traces impelled to remain of unfading divine DNA, and you hear their effect while I'm playing today. For the forms of the strophes therein were contained that were sounded for Danae, showers that rained from the height of the mountain where deities dwelt, and heliacal rays the Greek letters had spelt. From her mothering rose what you wakened may hear, and I'm brother of those that unslaken appear to surround me when rise from the fountains of Greece. What the cliffside will echo, the hymns need release. Hourly, daily reshapen, they hallow the mouth, whence the call has gone out to the north and the south, and the east and the west, and the up and the down. 6 directions let psalm be our garland, our crown. Hi. Unlike some of the life coaches who are very effective on Live Tribe, I don't have clinical training in coaching people on how to be happier. But what I do like to do is give you poetical exhibits of happiness as I've seen it and felt it with other people. And it happens that when I went to see my daughter in Minneapolis, her friend Sana has a 6-year-old boy, Edward, and I went for a walk with Edward, and it was an astonishing thing. Some people would call him hyperactive, but I saw him as a growing future scientist because he had to examine everything, and everything he saw made him happy. We went to the Museum for Children, and that's what I want to write about today. The profoundest of wisdom a child may express, if we, strengthened by charm and beguilement, can bless. How we live, how we feel in our elderly days will get painlessly better. The therapy pays. To the Children's Museum with Edward we went. To machines for enjoyment, attention we lent, though through some levels of rooms by a staircase he'd go, then would enter a tunnel where lasers would glow. He could try to evade all the laser lines, or he could chop them in two with his hand. All the more would the pleasure increase by the choice he might make, for decisions are fun. That's the lesson we take. When the struggle with laser light magic is done, there's a 2-story tunnel slide, double the fun, which would grow even more when the faces you'd see of the children around you enraptured in glee. The adventure must then be repeated, of course, ere the perfect hilarity lesson in force. 'Twas a program to show what a child might achieve who by multiple acts would in action believe. When the building we'd left declared Edward to me what I hope to remember forever. You see, I love myself, said in 3 words to declare what a person could learn just from seeing him there. I have said it as well, though admitted it not till this minute. Self-love has self-therapy taught not this writer alone, but each lass and each lad who, like God, says, I am, and in that can be glad. Hello, do you remember Edward from yesterday? Well, I'm back with more Edward today. 2 poems I've got for you. Listen. 3 fraternity houses had bow-hanging swings for a 6-year-old. Oh, here's Debbie. Thank you for joining me. I've got to start again. I just love this poem. 3 fraternity houses had bow-hanging swings for a 6-year-old. Wonderful things. Filled with energy, Edward would try every one till experimentation was done. Hold the chains so far down that you backward can lean. Let the sweep of the branches be seen. If you're standing, your ride at an angle you'll guide, or in ovals let orbits grow wide. If the swing is placed high, an experiment try. Chains entwining, you tighten them. Why? You'll discover how much, when the 2 are unloosed, the speed of untwisting will boost. In the morning, no traffic. The streets are so clear, you'll to each of the manholes come near. Lifting up, looking down, you'll uncover a way of exploring more objects in play. And the last of our little triptych, it's Edward again. I'm returning to Edward. I cannot forget how he'd greet me when nearing him. Set for the sudden surprise of a jump, he would run, then would leap to be caught. Double fun of delight and surprise, though I had to explain. If not warned, I might drop him, and pain would ensue, for less quickly reactions would rise than the leaper at first could surmise. The Museum for Children elicited joy, overwhelming a 6-year-old boy. Smiling wide just to hear of it, squealing with glee as in dream, he enraptured would be. Up the steps in a jungle gym setting you'd go, till a laser maze light beams would show. You could slash them or dodge them, both options allowed, and we'd screen watch your deeds and be proud. Then a slide, quite a big one, would prove your reward, and your spirit would doubly have soared if some other kids joined you in challenge and glide. Laughter loud, and the eyes, they'd be wide. Now, the Cooperstown Glimmer Glass Company staged an event that all stress had assuaged. I was yesterday favored with song and with dance that would holiday spirit enhance. There was even a 6-year-old boy who'd appear to arouse an additional cheer. To Rossini's The Barber, proceeding apace, he'd contribute extravagant grace. Add a farcical plot and quick shiftings of mood, they with mindset of childhood endued, the exuberant, leaping, and whimsical play in a perfectly 6-year-old way. Tonight, going back to the spirit of my original opener for this cycle, namely shrimp boats. Remember shrimp boats? And also in tune with the recent things I've been writing about taking a walk with a 6-year-old named Edward, I would like to offer, hello, Michael, nice to see you. I would like to offer tonight a little memoir about composing a poem for 6th grade prospective anthology of all of our lyrical contributions with pictures. I wrote a poem about the Pilgrims, and now here it is. This is how it started. In 1620, over the wide sea came a people called Pilgrims who wanted to be free, and 1 and 2 and 3 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 Isn't that a nice rhythm? I thought it was really neat. It appealed rather to a 10-year-old in the 6th grade, and I wondered what would happen. Well, here's a poem about what happened. I'm a 10-year-old boy, and my homework is done. No assignment was ever more fun. Every child in the room, 'tis a lively 6th grade, an original poem had made. We were also encouraged to draw what we'd told. A fine schooner I drew, looking bold. Words and visuals both will our album include. Satisfaction will soon have ensued. Driving thought is afloat in the music I wrote of the confident pilgriming boat. There's a mystery, though. Mrs. Wildrick, to me, said the rhythm she couldn't quite see. I can hear her tonight. She's not reading it right. Why is that? Yet creator delight never waned. She is stumped. Let the problem be hers. I can feel what my spirit prefers. Did I read it aloud, my intent to make clear? I was simply too shy. Was it fear? It was certainly something that speaking would shun, though in quiet, a triumph I'd won. Today I'm doing something a little different. I've been writing responses to offerings from other people in 21 Life Tribe, and I've gathered them today into a little bouquet of tributes with, or if you like, a little set of tributes with bookends at both ends, which are the introductory and the not concluding but inconclusive result at the completion of the sequence of 5. So here's my intro, which is in a new rhythm I'm exploring in the book that I'm currently writing. It's called the Sapphic Rhythm. And then once we're done with that, which is only 4 lines long, we have other short poems, mostly 4-liners, which are devoted to various of my friends. Poems for Live Tribers and Others with Sapphic bookend lyrics. Introduction. Friends, I want to bless you for kind responses. Everyone I see, an angelic mentor, comes to ask me, chant, and I'll gladly listen. Thank you and thank you. For Linda Sulavita. Beliefs, when differing, estrange, but love, your spirit life will change. This lyric I have made for you will versify what just came through. For Mary Oakley. What pleasure to be stopping by. I'll add to that by saying, hi, you're gentle, yet no longer shy. Sky's Irish, let the spirit fly. For Paul Octavian Voinescu. At 21, a tribe adult, on March 18th you may exult. 18 is twofold life, and I, at cycle end, l'chaim cry. And now, for Mike Folds. To speak for a moment's no dive from a cliff, there's not such a menacing, threatening if. No chance that you'll fall on a slippery rock. Just joy when you're voicing a moment of talk. You're really 100 times braver than I, nor ever have reason or need to be shy. And then here's a poem for Uta Sinclair on Facebook. It's called Chester the Cat. Inspiring presence, nature guest, an envoy at a high behest, your thoughts he'll rightly help direct, and guiding guardian protect. And now in conclusion. No, I don't conclude, for I view no ending. Rather, lively, mutually befriending, pioneers in strength of the heart ascending, love comprehending. Tonight I decided to go in for another bit of memoir recital. When I was 21, I got knocked off a bike by a Coke truck for failing to signal a turn, and I was in a coma for several days in hospital. But when I woke up, a strange thing happened. I thought I'd write about that today. When at age 21, I was tossed from a bike, I'd forgotten to signal a turn, by a truck and lost half of my hearing, my ear being struck by the road when I fell. There was something I'd like. In despite of the harm, in addition to luck of survival, a gift had been placed on my bed in the hospital, charming the heart and the head with a prospect to please. Inner child to recycle, to begin to recover. Thin brush, water paint on a grade school type oblong. Familiar each hue. Yellow, purple, green, orange, bright red, and deep blue made me grateful, as favored by angel or saint. Many years would go by, till one day I would read through the Salinger books and Epiphany's note. Yes, the red of the hunting hat, blue of the coat worn by Phoebe on merry-go-round, and indeed many other pure, simple, bright tints would appear. The balloon, likely green, Central Park in the spring, bored white cat, round white moon of the Seymour haiku, Zooey's red tam and blanket, green leash, reefer too. Just as blue as the coat of old Phoebe held dear, and the polished round shine on the boss of the shoe that you show to the fat lady, child treats that we're both revived and refreshed by. Remarkable thing. In tonight's poems, I would like to address a certain problem in contemporary American English. All around me, I hear a very odd kind of thing happening. Words that I would have thought would be, and would seem to be, related to passion, intimacy, emotion, sexuality, are for some reason twisted around and turned into curses and filled with rancor and loaded with hatred. I really find that as strange as can possibly be. And I thought I would think about it, write it up, and sing it through to see if I can do something about it. We'll just jump right into the problem. Something sucks. What is sucked? Why is sucking so bad? Once an adequate answer is had, you will find something sexual used for a curse. Mind is willfully twisted, or worse. He's a jerk. What is jerked? Why is jerking a sin? Both the jerk and the sucker have been from a sensual reference taken and made into curses that wrath have portrayed. Why's the four-letter word act that granted us life with a murdering madness made rife? Why have parts of the body been heartlessly damned and the doors of the sense life been slammed? On a Microsoft website now crucial for news, why must writers the body abuse? Active love they convert into violent scream, turn to nightmare, a sensual dream. Next poem. We need laughter, n'est-ce pas? Kindly pardon my French. That's consistent with being a mensch. When friend poem 125 had perused, in replying, a fine wit had she used. Great are four-letter words such as love, life, mind, muse. Wise the hint, only fool would refuse. I will even go yonder than that and obtain 4 more letters for optimal gain. Tetragrammaton, Greek for a 4-letter word, thought so holy it never is heard. 'Tis the YHVH, or the Yud-He-Vav-He, where the life light is plain as the day. In the name of the nameless, the holiest 4, we a window attain and adore. Tetragrammaton taught, we fast forward may go, and a secret most deep hope to know. You see, when I was a boy, I was taught that there was a 4-letter word that was so holy it couldn't even be said. That is the sacred Hebrew name of God. Well, let's go on then to the next stage in our thinking, okay? To deliver our language from body hate blight, I've a major attainment in sight. Since a potently sexual term we have known to a devil-made curse word has grown, I've precluded the use of it, writing instead bitter health for the heart and the head. A nice 5-letter word that is ready and waits, and at poet horizon elates. A few centuries past, one enraptured might swive, and would savor the rhyme with alive. Swive is an old word that was used for hundreds of years. I have no idea why it went out of style. I want to bring it back. Those who, driven by passion, had swiven would say, hallelujah, huzzah, and hooray. In his epic romancing, the hero that swove felt an underworld treasury trove. Conjugation made conjugal, couples had swived, juvenescent, refreshed, how they thrived. And my last poem is borrowed from another book that I published called A Lover's Art, where I contributed 280 love poems, and this is one of them. It's called He Discourses on Words. And the epigraph, the little motto at the beginning is, then lively to a depth he dove, who lively in a swevin swove. Another old English word that was very popular for centuries and then faded out of view. Not too many people know these words, but they're there. They're in every, they're in Oxford English Dictionary and all the other quality reference books, and they've never entirely gone out of style. Poets remember them. Although to swive is like to sweep, while swevin is a dream in sleep, a swiver swevin heaven high may reach and make an angel weep. A swevin, remember swevin is an old word for a dream. A swevin is to swiving nigh. They raptured and in ravished lie, who while on earth in might alive make love arise to upper sky. We gladly rhyme the handy swive with every strider who might strive to blend, befriend, ascend, and spend, and with a cry on high arrive. A teaching that will never end, with lighting leaven led to wend what swiver might soever leap, and on that swevin strength depend. For a change in mood, today I'll read a couple of short, quiet, meditative poems. In his reverie melodies, what had availed lonely Rumi, who flute music hailed as the moan of the syrinx wherein she bewailed her lost reed home? Entreaties had failed, and she brooded, so will the poet's soul too, on the one whom he never can view, though at least she a metaphor had in her home amid rushes and sedge. Thus we roam, and in memory mourn what is over and gone. But I yet must remember the dawn. Hesper, phosphor, the evening and morn become one. No decline without life re-begun. 'Twas the reeds from the shore that the Moses boat bore, and would gently protect him the more. Mother, sister, the princess, the Pharaoh's own wife, overseeing him, treasured his life. What protection may shelter the reed when she weeps? Deep the feeling that melody keeps. When our home we suppose we have left, we are wrong. Seek your love, and you'll see him in song. If we prostrate should fall while the gust rushes by, we will mirror the reed beds that lie on the shore of the murmuring sea that contains flowing nourishment reed spirit gains. There's a oneness they feel of the firm and the moist, who've in earthly marine life rejoiced. Wind and sun that will join them mean elements blent, make respiring, alive and content. But the surf in its moan hints the further alone, calls the wave folk to throng to the throne. What's complete in its finitude, perfect can be, but they sing the unlimited. We who the sky can imbreathe must with mortal-born tongue, leaving current life, echo. We've sung such a cry and a psalm. Those who longing outpour stretch our soul to the sea without shore. See what I've got for you here? This is my grandmother's passport. She brought it over with her to Canada in 1913, and I have written a poem about it. First, I begin by translating it. The presenter of this document, property owner, interesting, that's the classification they gave her, property owner Mirya Yezerovna Bidnaya, age 35, with children Chaim, age 11, Pesach, age 9, David, age 4, and Sheva, age 6, is going abroad, June 12th, 1913. There's something a little bit odd about that. The ages are given as 11, 9, 4, and 6. Why didn't the 6-year-old Sheva come number 3? Why is David, who's only aged 4, listed number 3, and Sheva is put off till the end? I think the answer is she's a girl. Girls have to go last. Interesting, isn't it? That's the way people thought in the Ukraine 100 years ago, and let's hope they don't think that way in upstate New York or in America generally in the current year. Here's my little poem about it. I hope you enjoy. I love this little novelty, and I'm glad it was made out of such strong, high cloth and high fiber content paper, because it has stood up well and is in excellent condition with its archaic handwriting in pre-revolutionary spelling before the communists reformed and simplified the Russian alphabet. Here's the handwritten statement I'm gazing at now. You can see it is careful in phrasing, and how the official would write when my grandma would say Hebrew names in her Yiddish-Ukrainian way. Though the youngest is David, my father, he's made number 3 on the list. Had the writer been swayed to delay my Aunt Sadie till every last boy had been named? Did a male special treatment enjoy? You'll observe that my grandma's respectable. She is a property owner and likely would be well accepted. Her husband already arrived by himself in Toronto and likely had strived to prepare for the family somewhere to live. good provider. I picture him eager to give what he could so the others would settle in well. What a joy of my forebears, this story to tell. Well, today I would like to show you what fun it is to make word songs out of anything whatever that just happens. So I started early in the morning by waking up early and wondering what was making the birds sing so early before the sun came up. I Googled it and I had a poem. Here we go. I'm awake, yet before I my labor begin, undefinable favor would win. In The Wild Birds Unlimited, here I found out why the males, for their lyrical shout, chose a moment so early. The first thing I learned was a grace gift I couldn't have earned. Every bird with his own irreplaceable song will contribute pre-dawn to the throng. Now, the time before sunup is also the hour when no winds have arisen to power. So the tune quite distinctive to you will be heard, unconfused with some other male bird. Should the mood before dawn be awaking the dark, sprightly females are likely to hark. If you're chanting like that, when it's frigid like this, with your vim, you'll be bringing me bliss. Oh, I'm with you, best comrades, I too would be known for my treasure surrender in tone. In a tune for my Shula, I, Solomon King, vernal psalm from the heaven wealth bring. So that's my wake-up poem. And then I proceed to have a little coffee and look at the horoscope in the paper. I'm Taurus, that's the bull, also allied with Venus. We appreciate the good things of the earth. Taurus for Monday, September 17 was this. Release control and let the day take you where it will. What ensues will be highly creative. Not much to do with that to make a really fine word song. I will demonstrate it, and that'll be the second and final offering that I'm giving you today. I'm releasing control, and I'm letting the day with intuitive wisdom be leading the way, for I'm firmly assured that whatever ensues will creativeness raise from my freedom to choose. I in this hardly differ from Adam and Eve, who in power of choice would rejoice to believe, and the fruit of whose knowledge proved strength to beget, for in giving we live, paying forward our debt. In the flight of the birds, or in scrying of poems, or in horoscope wit, or the writing of psalms, we imaginal aptitude show, as portrayed when the breath of a wooer a universe made. Day is taking me far, and the speed of its art must belie all solidity, rather impart what is fostered by autumn, which bids me to play a toccata, my offering, Yiddish for A. Hello, everyone, and a happy springtime. I have a poem to read today, actually two poems, but they're both quite short. The second one's even shorter. The first one has to take at least a minute or two because it explores various ways of looking at time. There are all kinds of metaphors, symbols, emblems of time, and I like to try them all out. Okay, so let's go. What compares with the youth that will wait till we age? Time and I friendly rivalry wage. Time partakes of the nature of river and sea, flowing for and against, as may be. Time's my energy, being the steed that I ride, and to love, my infallible guide. Time's the field that I plant, where the seed I bestow that will swiftly to poetry grow. Time's unbounded in space, with a whiteness of sky, where alike are the deep and the high. Time's the heartbeat I hear, when a breath I attain, and more near than my jugular vein. Time's the friend I embrace, ere the chariot race, and can see his Hyperion face. I have to say, I'm in competition here with the sun god Apollo, also called Hyperion, and we're both riding our separate chariots across the sky. See who will get to the horizon first. Time's the friend I embrace, ere the chariot race, and can see his Hyperion face. Time of grandeur in flow of my blood is the tone that ensures I am never alone. And now for the page turn and the second selection. Undefeatable I, indefeasible these, lyrics powered with speed and with ease. Think of Pollock, a whirl in a swirling of spurt. Think of de Kooning in hurricane blurt. Think Van Gogh with the beard sparks of orange and blue. Think Typhoon, crashing, barreling brew. Think of Schubert, the alder king. Pages aflare, while the thunder keys flame in the air. The extreme of restraint, the supreme of control, is the eye of tornado, the soul. It is riant in quiet, in triumph blaze hid, solemn calm, awe in arm, riddle thrid. Good evening. Today I'm going to have a little bit of fun. A minute ago I thought I was going to be able to have a little fun, but I was cut off halfway through my reading by a lack of power. And now a dog is trying to drown me out. This is the time of the day when I think people turn to the net and, or else they go outside and, like the dog, turn to a release of their energy so that obstacles are presented for clear communication by me of my word songs. But I'm moving ahead because, remember, I wrote a poem the other day that said, undefeatable I, indefeasible these. And I have a wonderful project for today. I'm going to pay tribute to one of my very favorite composers, Stravinsky. And I'll begin by with my homage to his Rite of Spring, one of the most celebrated orchestral ballets ever written, and certainly of the 20th century. Rite of Spring, I have learned that the girl hadn't died. She had whirled as a dervish and firmly relied on the god of the morning, who vernal returned and outpouring rewarding had spermed her unspurned. In their sorcery, centuries earlier, too, had the maidens that fainted in mercy come through, guaranteed that their blood would by none be required when to flood their new being with sun they desired. When the priest had with osculent zeal given earth his profession of faith in a forthcoming birth, catabasis would high anastasis imply. He had strongly confirmed that the girl wouldn't die. Little death to be praised, greater death to be shunned. On our flame stream the highest of light rays have sunned. With particulate energy all of us whirl. I'm a dervish no less than the light-favored girl. And now another super favorite Stravinsky composer, composition of mine in a lighter mood called Agon, which means a struggle in Greek. In the colorful Agon, Stravinsky has writ, where's the struggle depicted? 'Tis fit that we answer by listening. That is the place where a conflict Olympic we face. In the many-length parts, the announcer averred, might a host of composers be heard from Baroque and the classic Mozartian age until Schoenberg, Boulez take the stage. One astonishing thing from the start is made clear. Overwhelming's the unity here. Though admittedly bombs at tradition he lobs, each attack, as in Calvin and Hobbes, maps a playful aggression, a 6-year-old's claim for the polymorph id to find aim. Though Olympian track meets with fury were fierce, yet did poets compete and transpierce, each with hymn to the lyre, every vaunted desire that a rival might stir to aspire. In competitive rivalry, height is the prize to be sought by the strong and the wise. So in Agon the tone colors, altering rouse with a startle most artful, and house the engagement of hearers in changeful events to be kept both attentive and tense. Well, the tender and soft to the strident in pride are adjoined, and in form are allied. With a witty quick balance of conflict and play, comic mindset is making its way. Today I have a fun story to tell. It happened when I was 7 years old. I've rarely mentioned it to anyone because it's just very strange and it might be for some people slightly embarrassing. I was 7 years old and in the 3rd grade, and next month I will turn 76. So just about 7 decades have passed, and I still love this story because it made me very, very happy. Here's what happened. The teacher would read us from Charlotte's Web, which is a widely acclaimed book by E.B. White, the children's writer, a good stylist and evidently a warm-hearted person. I wouldn't know anything about either of those facts, though, if that's what they are, because my way of listening was a little different from most people's, or so I imagine. I ignored the words, I ignored the story, I ignored the plot, and I ignored the characters, I ignored the scenery, and I ignored everything but the voice of the teacher, which flowed in wonderful ups and downs, and they constituted, the ups and the downs, a landscape in music. And so, if the teacher, if I had ever told him about it, which I wouldn't have dared, and if he had reported to my parents, you know, your boy says he ignores every story that I read, and Charlotte's Web, he says he takes in by ignoring everything about it, and he basically cares nothing about a word that I say. And of course my reply would be, right, I hear nothing you say and everything you sing. And that's what made me, I think that's what planted the seed for my becoming a word songwriter today. So here's my little poem about it. There's an artwork that hides in your life. All you need is a drive to inquire, and the deed of applying potential to audible act will, when finished, be factum, a fact. Let's go back to grade 3. Veer de Volt is the name of my teacher. To Anapest fame, I promote him with bliss of a 7-year-old, in memoriam scribing in gold. He would frequently read at the end of the day, what a treat, Charlotte's Web. But to say what the book was about, I'll have never the power, for entranced I was hour after hour by the stream recitation enticed and absorbed. Single wish had been sceptered and orbed as imperial guardian sprite of my brain. Perfect melody pleasure to gain. I ignored every word and determinedly heard the essential when readings occurred. How I followed the current with swelling and ebb of the voice that I loved. Charlotte's Web? I know nothing of her, of the web even less, and I never attempted to guess. But at 75 comes alive the deft voice that at 7 had made one rejoice. Good evening. I've discovered my documentary moments on Live Tribe have been going over fairly well, so I'm going to offer another one today. This time I'm no longer 7 years old. I have jumped up to age 16, and the year is actually 1960. In the poem it says 1954, but I'm always making mistakes with numbers. I just have to chalk that one up to fate, but it's as simple as that. Anything else needs to be mentioned? Oh, there's a ROTC. My stint in ROTC comes to the fore near the end of the poem. That's Reserve Officers Training Corps. I never was in the Army, but I had to take that military preparation course for 2 years at college. Even though I graduated in 3, I tried to get exempted from it the second year because I told them I was already a junior, but they refused to allow that legal plea. There's really no reason why I should have ever had to do that, but it happens that the president of Indiana University was of the opinion that such things were good for training your character. Well, enough prelude, okay? Let's get back to my fun memoir narrative. I'm allergic to wool. Not a problem, you say. Keep away from the sheep, let them stray. But a gift did a cousin from Canada send that would itching and scratching portend. I'm a senior in high school. A major event will a chance at performing have lent. With the student string orchestra, glad I'm allowed to play solo. Made happy and proud, I have practiced Vivaldi's concerto so long, the A minor, I've come to feel strong in expression and phrasing and pitch, and I'll play rather boldly, I think, come what may. It is happening. Cameras trained to record for TV our performance. Reward I am feeling, but lighting intense meant the heat spread the sweat from my head to my feet. For I'd seen no way out. The wool suit, as I thought, was required. There's no other I've got. And beneath the hot trousers, pajamas I'd wear, or the itching would lead to despair. Said my sister, the playing was great, but your frown seemed unneeded. 'Twas getting me down. 54 was the year. 'Twould be fun now to see what I looked like, the heated up me. I in ROTC those pajamas still wore. All the uniforms wool as before, and I nicely survived, though an athlete nearby had collapsed with so gentle a sigh. This evening I'd like to share with you, as I've done several times in this book, though not yet on recordings necessarily, but they're all here, various critiques, various responses, or you could just call them ruminations or reveries about Shakespeare plays. And I like to focus on the ones that I either read and forgot or never got around to. Timon of Athens is a good example of a play that rarely gets put on, and I think that's partly because very little happens in it, although one amazing thing does happen, one big thing, which is not only momentous but cataclysmic. Here's the way it worked. Timon was an Athenian administrator, and he gave away everything he possibly could, courting favor from everyone, and doing it also just out of what appeared to be a boundless love of extreme generosity. People never could figure out either where he got the money or why he had the motive to give it. But when it ran out, something very big happened, as I noted. He discovered he had no more friends when he had no more money, and this had as its consequence an absolute turnaround in his personality, so that instead of, oh, wonderful, Mary's here, Michael is here, thank you for listening to me, instead of love, he turned to hatred. Instead of outgoing generosity for everyone, he determined that really he hated the human race. And in fact, he is the #1 misanthrope, the absolutely champion people hater in all the plays of Shakespeare. And in fact, one of the characters sums up what the problem was. The middle of humanity thou never knewest, but the extremity of both ends. You have nothing in between. With you, it's always extreme generosity or the most extreme disgust and revulsion, and nothing in between. Now, here's what Timon then said, more or less to himself. Yield him who all the human sons do hate, from forth thy plenteous bosom one poor root. He's talking to the ground, actually. He develops this new strange mania, habit, compulsion, desire. He digs for roots. He chews them, he eats them up, and every now and then he talks about the importance of roots, and he never explains why. Well, I think I'll tell you why, and that's why I picked this for today. It's a perfectly direct and straightforward importance to all the people on Live Tribe 21 who are counselors, social workers, and therapists and life coaches. Here's a man who lives a pendular life from one extreme to the other, and he has no idea why this happens. Nobody else understands it either, but he does seem to understand that if there were a clinician or counselor, some therapist around to consult, he might benefit, because what he needs more than anything in this world is a root to find out the root of that problem. Well, so here's how I sum up this reaction of mine to Shakespeare's Timon of Athens. Generosity, meanness, the theme of the plot. Once a prodigal, Timon, impoverished, taught by resentment that gifts won no permanent friend, calls humanity bestial, and deathward must tend. From excess to deficiency, moral's the tale. He's improvident. First in the boon, then the bale. We may ask, why in either, in each, or in both? Might he seek a solution? He seems to be loath, yet there's something within him that's prompting a quest to uncover the source of the worst and the best. He the question won't pose, but an emblem he shows, which may hint that a goal, unbeknownst to him, grows. He starts digging, protesting he doesn't want gold, which can merely occasion offenses untold. What he cries while he's delving is, "Earth, bring me roots! Oh, a root!" Then, "Dear thanks," he a favor imputes. When he yells at the baffled, "Behold, earth hath roots!" He is mocking the gold seekers. Rhizome bite suits the despiser of wealth and of seekers to boot. He'll a root sample chew, then be sullen and mute. No psychologist, Timon, no word of his woes will he speak, that the root of the ill might disclose. Might the metaphor we have been treating so long, turning passion to act, make the weaker feel strong? Well, my yesterday Shakespeare reverie got wonderful responses, so I'm going to try another Shakespeare today. This is from one of my favorite plays, Antony and Cleopatra. It happens that throughout the play, Antony, the king, more or less, and Cleopatra, the queen, have shirked political responsibilities in the most blatant way, conducting their lives of passion. And now Antony, paying for that, partly on the basis of Cleopatra's rather bad military advice, if that's what it was, decides that he, having followed the advice, has to deal with the fact that he is now defeated by Caesar. And what is Cleopatra facing? She will be taken to Rome, and she will be dragged through the streets and reviled and degraded and shamed. She doesn't want to face that. She'd rather commit suicide, so she calls her servant to bring her a poisonous reptile called an asp that will do the trick. And the astonishing thing is this you get from Shakespeare and from nobody else. Comedy is inserted at this next to last moment of Cleopatra, and we've got to see life from a rounded perspective. It isn't all happy, it isn't all sad, and what's very interesting here is the comedian, being the servant, comes from the lower classes and has an appropriately skeptical attitude to the goings-on that happen in the palace among the so-called royalty. So here's a quote from Shakespeare, and then there's the reaction that I want to give you in my poem. Here we go. Cleopatra, hast thou the pretty worm of Nilus there, that kills and pains not? Clown, truly I have him, but I would not be the party that should desire you to touch him, for his biting is immortal. Those that do die of it do seldom or rarely recover. This is most fallible, the worm's an odd worm. Now the clown is a rustic, we're told by the note. In the master plot, urbanites only may vote. The subordinate country folk little can do in their subplot but comment on things they can view. But the tragical death of a ruler on high is illumined, we find, by the wit we espy in the clever, unlettered expression enjoyed by our man, who our language has deftly employed. Though the poet himself has to royalty bowed, in the mouth of the clown he is freedom allowed, as the royals and worm are both fallible, so their deeds are of comical oddities full. Yes, the worm's an odd worm, and the play an odd turn has to take when they yearned for is one we might spurn, but the moods of our nature bear humor and woe. Like the water we came, and like wind will we go. Today I have for you what might very well be the craziest reading I've ever given. It's simply a plot outline of a novel by Thomas Mann, the great German writer. In German, it's Thomas Mann, who wrote a 4-volume novel that I love called Joseph and His Brothers, 4 volumes made out of 10 or 15 pages in the Bible. He also wrote Death in Venice. Maybe you saw the movie. It was quite celebrated when it came out some decades back. Well, this novel now, of which I'm going to summarize the plot, is called Der Erwählte, the Chosen One, or in the translation used by H.T. Lowe Porter, who did it into English, it's called The Holy Sinner. You could use either title. Here we go with this story now. Hold on tight, because a lot's going to happen. In a contrast to Gospel, Torah, and Quran, there's a whimsical scripture by Mann where the holy with sin is so tightly entwined that a moral's not easy to find. We the legend begin with a royal domain which, like Eden, is void of all pain. But the prince and the princess by passion are led to beget on incestual bed one they love, perfect son, who is too a disgrace that they, scared, are unwilling to face. Like the biblical Moses, the baby is placed on a raft and through sky favor graced to be found by a fisherman. Later he's brought to the bishop's parishioners, taught with meticulous discipline, ethics and law. He instills in the nourishers awe. But an envious ruffian, jealousy prone, now attacked the poor lad. Overthrown though the scoundrel would be, in the course of the fight the youth's origin hid. Came to light, though the villain, like Cain, may have wanted to slay, yet our hero, God helped, won the day. He, uninjured, is prudent and knows he must leave, lest his birth fact the nourishers grieve. He resolves to aspire as a valorous knight to a life of upholding what's right. To a far distant realm he then travels, and there feels the menace of war in the air. There's a queen on the throne, who's been courted for years by a goat beard whom everyone fears. By refusing his suit, she enraged him the more, and he foully resorted to war. She the offer accepts that our hero extends to defend her. All effort he bends to defeat the invader. At length he'll succeed. Her suit Esau is conquered indeed. Now he marries the lady, but that which befell, how with pen that is trembling to tell? She's the mother, it seems, who her baby to save let him drift on the wandering wave. So again is our legend by destiny led to a dreadful incestual bed. Major measures will have to be taken if he, with his spirit from sinfulness free, he as hermit alone on an ocean-swept rock has resolved to stay fastened by lock. As a covenant seal, he has taken the key and has tossed it away on the sea. There was nothing to eat on the stone, so you'd think, but the Earth Mother fed him a drink. 'Twas the milk she had given to the earliest race ere we sinners had fallen from grace. Though our hero grew shrunken and filthy and hard, yet the life of his soul was unmarred. As it happened, 2 priests in a vision were led to perceive a sweet lamb, how it bled. In this Christ apparition, the lamb made it clear that the priest to the rock must come near and transport the old hermit athwart the wide sea, that as Pope crowned in Rome he might be. From this tale, Der Erwählte, the chosen, we learn that repentance election may earn. Though the hermit spent 17 years on the rock, yet the key was soon found to unlock the dread fetter that kept him enchained to the stone, while in grace of the Spirit he'd grown. For the fisherman saw that the key'd not been drowned, in a fish he had caught it was found. After years of a rougher than Jobian life, was our hero delivered from strife. By a Jonah-like method, the key came to light from a Piscean intestinal night. So in sum, had our hero of siblings been born, then had married his mother, forlorn, after grappling with woe from the famine and wave, as a pope he the church life might save. There'd been struggles of popes who the throne tried to win, and their hopeless ambition was sin. One enlightened in mind was required to erase vain divisions that rays would efface. Think of Tonio Kruger, boy modest and shy. Some might judge him a gypsy, and why? Well, his mother, dark-featured, of southerly clime, gave him fondness for rhythm and rhyme. He to blue-eyed Hans Hansen, in comradeship drawn, couldn't match him in sport, or let on. How he longed to resemble him, natural, free. What an athlete, so handsome was he. In that story, told early, Mann offered a clue to what chosen ones have to go through. They no center would occupy, ever outside they might wait. Love in writer brain hide. See the music? That is something new for today, along with my springtime makeover, which I hope you will like. What I've done is I wrote a song. Now, it doesn't have anything to do with this book of Anapests, except that while before writing the song and afterwards and during the process, I wrote a couple of poems about songwriting in the requisite anapestic meter. And I'd like to read them for you, and then I will sing you my song, and I have even got a pitch pipe to make sure I get the right key. I have happy, impassioned, a love song composed that a lesson for living enclosed. And I've made the decision to give it right here, where with musical notes 'twill appear. I had frequently played it for people before as a folk tune on fiddle. What's more, the musicians, I found with delight, would join in and a little tradition begin. Long and hard had I worked to find lyrics to fit, and determined I never would quit. 8 brief lines, yet the wording, prayer rendered, is plain, and may strengthen your memory gain. 'Tis ad libitum, freely conceived at the start, in the hope 'twill appeal to your heart. And when once you excited and confident feel, rev it up for a danceable reel. I will mark it allegro appassionato for a starter, allowing dramatic vibrato. The Mack truck sort, however, I'll need to eschew. Widened waves you may drive a big vehicle through. Animato, I soon will be movingly singing, then con moto, with rug on the runway for winging my Aladdin-like path in cerulean space. Let the tune overclimb both the time and the place. As we head in our flying to final commotion, we stringendo may dare, gaining speed over ocean. I'll conduct while I chant and might even desire that the audience join me in boisterous choir. Yet we old-timey folkies, a maritime clamor, less admire than a square dance that folk will enamor, who remember the piece Appalachian Spring, where my pal Aaron Copeland would poetry sing. Okay, now we'll turn to the appendix of this book where my song appears. Set in F for voice and in D for fiddle. I'll do the fiddle some other time. Oh, will be true forever. Nothing will our love dissever. Me for you and you for me will be true eternally. Will be true forever. Nothing will our love dissever. Me for you and you for me will be true eternally. And if we have to part, we are one in mind and heart. You for me and me for you will eternally be true. And if we have to part, we are one in mind and heart. You for me and me for you will eternally be true. Will be true forever. Nothing will our love dissever. You for me and me for you will eternally be true. Will be true forever. Nothing will our love dissever. Me for you and you for me will be true eternally. And if we have to part, we are one in mind and heart. You for me and me for you will eternally be true. And if we have to part, we are one in mind and heart. Me for you and you for me will be true eternally.